The Therapist and the Coach podcast is a space for real relational conversations about what it means to be human.
In a world obsessed with fixing, achieving, and self help, we invite you to pause, lean in, and discover the wisdom already inside.
Together, we explore how healing, growth, and transformation can happen not in isolation, but in connection.
Through open hearted dialogue, we challenge the myth of self regulation and self improvement, offering instead co regulation, psychological safety, and the power of being seen. Hello, Lerae.
Hello. So
I
good to
saw
be
you.
with
I
you.
saw you 30 minutes ago, but we started recording, so
Yeah,
well,
good,
it's
good,
just to
good.
get people in, not in the middle of the conversation, but to start anew.
Well,
How are
so much
you?
seems to happen in a week between you and I, so it's good to have that catch up.
Yes, I was in the East Coast, and you were going through some stuff there in your neck of the woods, literally in the woods,
Yeah,
in your
literally in
beautiful
the woods.
place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all good. All so good. Lots of clearing and lots of choice decisions being made and yeah, good stuff happening. So
Yeah, we were talking about clearing the old and make space for the new, and how important it is, and how so many times we are holding on to things that might not work, and we just
stay
find
too
ourselves,
long.
yeah, way too long. And as we were talking about it, we thought about sharing that with our audience,
Mm.
that a lot of us, many of us, are holding into relationships, into commitments that maybe worked at the beginning and no longer, but we kind of find ourselves that our energy is getting sucked and we're getting tired and depleted, and we don't even know so many times why. And then we kind of like, if we kind of settle in, it's just like, it's kind of like the avoidance things. Oh, now I have to do this, now I have to do that, and things have changed. And then we're not coming from a place of, just like you and I cannot wait for the podcast to talk, or even the conversations between us, that it's like forward, it's easy. It's easy because it's also nurturing us right away. But so many times we start getting into things that maybe at the beginning they worked, but we kind of find ourselves, the dynamic has changed over there, and we are start feeling like, but we don't even sometimes think what we should do with that,
Mhm.
and when we do recognize that, and it's not easy to let go of relationships or commitments or things. We were talking about the organizations that both you and I, different organizations, we were committing ourselves to things that at the beginning we thought it's a shared purpose, and you had like alignment and shared intentions, and it's all like at the beginning, like the honeymoon kind of a honeymoon phase, kind of like, yeah, we're falling in love and all that, and it's so good. And then it starts becoming something very different than what we intended to do or wanted to do. Yet we're sucked in and we cannot really sometimes get out because we're not even aware how much it's changed and it's no longer. And then, so I can imagine that everyone that listens can know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, I think it also dovetails into what we were speaking to last time in our previous podcast, because the world is changing rapidly and there's so much access to information in different forms, whether it's AI or whether, and I don't even know what's true, but there politically there's things going on, and at the level of community things are going on. It's that systemic shift. It's almost like a tremor that is being felt, and people are reacting and responding to it. Corporations are reacting and responding to it. When the tariffs, that shook everybody, now all of a sudden everyone's buy Canada, and I'm like, well, okay, but then now Canada is like raising prices on things. Like it's really fascinating to me just to be an observer of what's going on, but also internally experience it down to the microcosm of my own relationships and the commitments I've made. And it's really interesting. So as things change and react to systemic changes or market changes, or it things, it can be one choice, and it shifts the direction, things move out of alignment, and without presence or without attunement with oneself and or what's going on and or one's intention,
Right.
it's
Right.
easy to end up, I guess the way I talk about it is things are feeling messy.
Mhm.
And when things start feeling internally messy, and I start to activate more, I realize, oh, something's shifted here, and I may not be able to determine what it is. So I have to figure out, is it me? Is this something in me? Is this
Absolutely.
an ego thing? Is then
Right.
I've got to like do the self-awareness, sort of um
Yeah.
cocktail of things that I do.
Right.
Um and then just really meditate on it and allow the answer to float to the top. Um, and everyone's got their own process to do that. So yeah, I think it really dovetails nicely into what we were talking about. What is moving out of alignment or what's shifting or changing, and there is so much happening at so many different levels
Yeah.
of change, and just it's also making me really look at what is my intention, what is my purpose is too strong a word, but I think I want to stay more aligned with intention and um at this point. But and I also want to speak to the fact that we did talk about perhaps having a guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the true nature of the way we hold things, things have not aligned for that to happen today. And that's totally okay. We can roll with that
Absolutely.
and trust
Absolutely.
that our friend Melissa will join us with her lovely children's book, The Inner Being. And it does actually also dovetail into what we're talking about here, is because that
Absolutely.
inner guidance, when things are going bonkers and bananas in the external, we got to come home to ourselves, I think.
You're absolutely right. I think we try to generally as people want to be safe, right? I mean, the safety, I'm talking about psychologically safety, as we said, like so many times things that feel safe are not exactly what we need, even though it feels safe, just holding on to a job, holding on to intentions that we originally thought that might work. And because we kind of went that way, it gave kind of so many times pseudo safety because we know where we go. We have more control, or we think we have more control. We think that this is the direction to go. So it gives some kind of like, oh, okay, now I know we're going with that. But we rarely stop and see how is it for us? Does it go into the direction? Because we're scared of changes.
Mhm.
Changes are basically a lot of them involved with unknown and a lot
Uncertainty. Mhm.
uncertainty. Exactly right.
Mhm.
And uncertainty is not easy for anyone.
Well, uncertainty, and I'm going to throw another feeling in there, disappointment.
Yes.
Uncertainty and disappointment. And I'm not sure how they, but there, maybe even grief.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
there could, I mean, we could get out our feelings wheel and like probably throw a lot of feelings into this, but I think
Yes.
the main one that you're speaking to, that we might be non-consciously react to, is
Hmm.
that need for safety. So as you were saying that, I was thinking about things like, well, role definition. Well, I have this role, so then I've got expectations about how I am meant to, and I've built relationships based on a role and
Right.
a description of what I do. And if I'm not meeting that, then I'm not managing other people's expectations. I mean, that's where the messiness is. It's like, whoa,
Exactly right. That's exactly right. A lot of important words that you say. Expectations are a big thing. And I think that a lot of it is like, as you said, like there's disappointment because when we close something, so many times we don't close things that should be closed. Kind of people say, I don't want to burn that bridge. And I used to say, some bridge needs to be burned. you know, some bridges are not safe and you don't want to cross to the other side because there isn't on the
they're
side.
just not
They're
useful.
not
Like they're
useful.
actually not used. They're not part of your, like
Right.
the time, the season is complete.
And that goes into fear, that
Mm.
eventually all of it is kind of stand up from fear that we're not going to be okay because we are actually okay inside in any situation. We open up the quantum field to things, to the vista from which things can come is getting so much bigger. You clean up. There is also maybe disappointment because it's something that you wanted to happen. People expected you want it to happen. There is disappointment. There is, and then again, grief of what wasn't. But the beautiful thing is that it's opening up a space inside in your limbic system, not in the left side, in the right side, to kind of like almost get the, remember we talked about the pitcher with the water that is all the way up that kind of like sometimes get us overwhelmed and kind of spill into the left brain. That part is getting much lower because you don't hold on to things that don't need to be held, and they're just taking a room inside you that depletes you, and you actually it's maintaining something that doesn't work, so the batteries keep working inside you and it's depleting while it's not actually nurturing you anymore. And it is scary to let go of something without something underneath that coming.
Mm.
That's where we kind of want to say, like, we it's kind of like it's very hard to trust something that you haven't experienced yet, right?
Well, and I'm going to say from my experience, it's even hard to trust something that you have experienced and has worked, but is in that quantum field that you've just brought back into our
Yes,
space.
yes,
Because in the coaching mindset, from that place of receiving someone as a whole, resourceful, capable, expert in their own life state of mind, like that's how I receive or view people, then especially my clients, then the possibilities are endless. So I'm already coming in with that. I didn't really recognize it as such until you and I have been talking more about it. I come in with that quantum field mentality where, okay, so this is what your experience. What do you want to be different? Okay, so where do we start? And it's usually in the letting of these things go that you're talking about, uncertainty, which taps fear, which taps into a different part of ourselves. And if we don't have the capacity to hold those big
yes,
emotions and the discomfort of
yes,
them, I know in the past I've reverted back to, I mean, I've got story after story after story of going back to what's safe or go back to what I know, only to have it not work out to the extent where I went back so often in my early 20s that the thing that should have worked out because it had worked out for me for 10 years and it was the thing that kept me safe. It was the role I took that made a lot of money, where I had a lot of freedom. And I should have been hired because of the referrals and the years. And it's exactly the same. It was a restaurant chain that I worked for. And they didn't hire me. It's like, what? You're not hiring me? Like,
how how
I
dare how
I'm
dare you?
like your ideal employee. You don't have to
How
train me. I'll make you a lot of money. I'll make a lot of money, so I'll work a lot for you. And that was right when I was starting my coaching practice. So I had to actually, I couldn't go back to what I knew. I actually got to the point where I was punted into all the
they
uncertainty
did
of
you
trying to
probably
avoid.
and they did you a favor probably, right? In
Well,
that,
in the end,
yeah,
because then I had to sit in that quantum field space of
yes,
possibility and really dial in
yes,
to what I was trying to create certainty and then do the thing that needed the most courage. But when
yes,
I dialed in and focused on, okay, well, I'm here to build my business, and I started taking risks after risk after risk. And each time I took a risk, it's like the universe came in. I mean, that's the only language I had at the time. It's like I was rewarded. Like all of a sudden a client would come out of nowhere and I'm like, I didn't see
yes,
that coming.
yes.
And I could never have orchestrated it
No,
to be that, I'm going to say perfect, like that aligned. So I guess what I'm saying is I've experienced this time and time again, and I've watched my clients, and I call it, my friends call it Lerae magic, because I've been living in this space since I was very young. I've been tested. But so even though I know it's okay, when I'm experiencing, I'm better at it now, I will step into uncertainty sooner and I can hold the discomfort, but it's still my human reaction is that everything that you were describing with the fear and the uncertainty and the reaction and all the feelings that go along and staying too long, for all the reasons I'm staying too long. But the relief when the decision is made and the clarity is there, and I step over the threshold, like there, it does feel like there's a threshold between
yeah, oh yeah,
knowing, choosing for myself, and then communicating that to the world is like the threshold.
yes. This threshold, right? This threshold, you're talking about something so important. So basically, what I've been seeing things the same. both with clients and myself. And it's kind of like, then again, it's the pattern that we were talking about in previous, the implicit memories, the experiences that we had from very young age that we developed protections, defenses that worked for us, or how we need to be in the world and how we need to get what we think that we need right at that point of time. Saying we think because that's the only way. We might not have gotten what we needed and we don't even know that. So we trust what we trust. Even though like some people trust, the drugs that they're using don't want to get anything from the pharmaceutical from their doctor because they don't trust the system. So, and I'm not saying whether they should or shouldn't, but I'm saying we trust what we know, and that becomes the pattern from which we create the reality over and over and over again. And then what happens is usually there is, as you call it, the threshold, meaning
Mm,
that at some point we need to go so low, it needs to get so low that you cannot really anymore do what you did before. That it's no longer, not because it's like, it's like sometimes like almost like you're holding on to a cliff with your nails, just not to fall down. And because you said like, if I'm going to just let go of that, I'm going to die. I'm going to plunge into the abyss. And that's a feeling that so many people feel in so many occasions. It's like, I don't want to lose that person. I don't want to lose that employee. I don't want to lose that, that program that we're doing because we put all our money and our attention and we right now cannot let go because if we do, then what? you know but the thing is that the nature of things, if they don't work, they will spiral us gradually down until we are forced. It comes in a crisis or comes from all of a sudden reality hits you. It's gonna come. It's physics. It's like cause and effect in a way. It's like it's
mhm,
going to constantly derail you because it doesn't work. And
mhm,
eventually, so people can drink, for example, they can drink for years, and all of a sudden, like, and all is good, and all of a sudden there's a DUI that's changed the world completely and like rocked them all of a sudden, like, because there nothing happened. It cannot be like that forever. So it usually
another
comes.
choice point.
Right. So there is actually, and it's something that I'd like to talk about a bit because so many times people think that, oh, that's something horrible happened to me, just like they let go of you, or all of a sudden something happened like bombshell that just completely what you did doesn't work anymore. It doesn't hold anymore. Health crisis all of a sudden, like big things, whatever they are. And people tend to look at that as something really bad.
Mm,
And I don't. I learned that if I kind of trust that things needs to happen, they have a reason. And it's not necessarily that there is a lesson in it, or maybe the universe was trying to tell you for a long time and we couldn't really listen because of the fear, because we're trying to, in a human way, try to hold on what's familiar and what's feels safe. But eventually it doesn't hold up and actually it does a favor to us without knowing. Because if we cannot really actually stop it, and so many times because of the fear, we can't stop it, even though we know it doesn't work. But let's say there is dependency or there is like other kinds of fear that keeps us to get something, but we pay such a heavy price on the other side. People live like that so many times for years with regret, not knowing that they have the choice. Or maybe they know and they're not capable. But the beauty about the universe is it will bring you down, so to speak, from that because it cannot work. And even though it's like, brings a crisis, crises are not necessarily bad. They might signal you that something else needs to happen and you couldn't really let go. If you could trust that, then something in you is coming and
yeah.
you don't know what's to come, but there is you're clearing inside the system that opens the quantum field all of a sudden to new. And that's something that before, even if you tried so hard with your left brain to create things, it might have been from the same path that you've always done. And it always got you the same results. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly.
So there's
Exactly.
something wonderful if people can actually hear us and say whether it's a CEO that kind of try to force things or it's a relationship as whatever relationship, whatever that is keep kind of you're grinding into and you kind of you feel it's not right, but you keep doing that and you deplete it.
Mhm.
Maybe you can stop for a second and say, what will happen? What will
Well, and
happen?
what you're calling people back to is previous podcasts where we talk about the pause, the importance of the pause and being present with oneself, and and trusting. So we go back to the quality of the relationship with self, others, and all things. Relationship is the bottom
Mhm,
line.
mhm, mhm.
Pause, check in with myself, trust that I have the capacity. So to hold something that's uncomfortable, to exist in that tension between trusting myself and stepping over the threshold of uncertainty into the unknown, and believing that things are happening for me, not to me, which is what I heard you just say.
So,
And
right, and it's so true. But and it's like, in terms of, then again, we talked about quantum physics a little bit, and I just not going to explain too much. But when we when we are looking at something, looking, and not from our eyes, from our inner eyes, then we start making the change anyway. So, it's not like something that we can actually, so many times we don't trust because of our inner world inside is just so shaken up from the past experience that even if we need to trust, we don't. But if you can just sometimes trust that you can actually look at something that you don't want to look, just to look at without any changes.
and
Start with little,
expectations, without any
exactly,
expectations,
without
just
any
look at
expectation.
it.
You don't have to do anything.
Mhm.
We already start creating something new. Even if you say, like, what, as you said, like you said so wisely, just sit with yourself, pause for a second, and just open your inner eyes to what's happening in my life, what feels good, what feels like I've been doing that, it doesn't feel right. Why am I staying that? What will happen if I didn't? Just to kind of ask questions more than answering, and allowing that to manifest in your screen, internal screen. Then we are start doing something that the change start right there. And that's what I do in therapy. I'm there with, and constantly I am with my clients. I'm trying to figure out where they are and stay exactly with them. Because it's so easy to say, just like as a parent, as an employer, it's just like, oh, just you can do that. It's like, but it might not be. So if you are, and that's where slow is fast, is just to meet the people exactly where they are. And the same thing we can do to ourselves, with ourselves. It's just to say, like, where am I? If I don't have to, I don't have to change anything. The change would come by the fact that we're actually maybe
Just with a
open our eyes.
reflection. Yeah, may I? I'm interrupting you again.
Oh, no, no, you're good. You're good. Good. Go ahead.
I'm so excited about where this, because we were talking 15 minutes before we started recording, and then were uncertain whether Melissa was going to come or not, which was, she said that she may not be able to, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So it's all so good, but we've landed here. And what is so exciting to me about this is that, again, you're talking about therapy. I'm coming from a coaching perspective, and we're actually meeting our clients in the same place. You have all this incredible background and science. I've got years of experiential research just by being with people in this, I guess, quantum field space that I didn't realize I was holding for people. But you've put such an incredible, just in the last 3 minutes, you've nailed why coaching works in a way that I don't think, I haven't heard coaches talk about. But because this, it's because I can sit by myself and I can do this, but I don't know how many people have the capacity. But if I can sit and self-regulate, or so
Yes.
the co-regulation, again,
Yes.
pulling in other
Yes.
aspects of what we've talked about in previous,
Yes. Then you're holding them to open up their own
they're,
quantum
they're
field.
safer. It's not as scary to do it. It's not to
No.
step into that uncertainty and that unknown. And what you said is it already starts to change just because you looked at it. You don't have to do anything.
No.
We are conditioned for performance and result.
Yes. Yes.
And so you
100%
talk
right.
about slow is fast. You talk
Yes.
about the science behind it, and yet it is so hard for our nervous systems to let go of the expectation and the conditioning and the
Yeah.
safety
Yeah.
of performing and getting the A and getting the gold star,
Right.
because that
Right.
is what brought us that security and that sense of belonging. So
And yes,
I'd
100%.
also like to say that part of my excitement and my enthusiasm is that, and I meant to have it here, but I got the proof of the book the guidebook. It's not a book. It's a guidebook for soul designs.
You say about that a little bit?
Well, I just want to tell you what the because I just what the front page says, like
Please,
the cover
please.
page. It's Soul Designs Finding Your Way Home. And then I have my logo. And then it says a reflective guide to creating a practice of fierce honesty, vulnerability, and courage.
Mm.
So the guidebook itself is exactly what we're organically talking about. And it's been in my field and Melissa's field because she's been helping me with this book. So I've been deep in it while I've been doing all the edits and the prep for it.
It's so exciting and
But
it's so important.
there's a way, and I love that from the therapist and coach perspective. Here we are talking about the same thing and bringing the richness of your experience, knowledge, and education, and just we're meeting people in different ways, but the same ways. And I think that the thing I want to highlight that you've said a couple of times in this podcast already is meeting. We meet people. Meeting people is
Yeah.
actually the change.
Yes,
And
100%.
everyone sees
Because that's where neuroplasticity happened, which I want to remind people or people that don't know. Neuroplasticity basically is one brain molding another. Just like a mom have a little baby that just kind of was born, her energy, her makeup, her own makeup is literally molding his or her experiences.
it. We're doing that as
So
professionals
we're
as
doing
well.
that right now as we're talking.
Mm.
Constantly those interactions. Sometimes it's in a good way, sometimes it's in a bad way. Sometimes you are with energy that would get you into scarcity inside and will remold you to be scared. Sometimes you'll meet somebody that is very safe, and that's where you come with your open field,
Mm.
holding the space and holding people who are scared. That allows their system to start opening up to something else little by little. It's a matter of safety, and safety you don't do, safety you earn, and it takes time. But the fact that we are just sometimes it's the safety even to just kind of like some people cannot even say it's just too scary to look inside. So they keep running, 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 buying, 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 doing,
Moving,
accumulate,
moving, moving.
moving,
The
moving,
grass is
moving.
greener.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just not to face, actually not to get, they do everything they can not to be with this because it's scary. I have compassion to them. But it's always starts with us kind of sometimes kind of feeling like, maybe I can, what will happen if I actually look even with that question? What will happen? It's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. It's like, that is interesting. Just sit with that. We'll see. Without doing anything. This is scary. So you're scared. That's what actually happening. If we're getting to somebody who's so scared to ask them to embrace change, it will terrify them. We're not
Mm.
doing that. But if we allow them to be exactly where they are and put our mental arm around
Well,
them
and to pause long enough
and
to
to help them
reflect.
to feel safe to pause, because we have to, this is where the co-regulation comes, is that where a mom can be, then again, wants to hold and do the right things, but she's anxious herself, you
Mhm.
know. What do you think can happen? The kid would be held physically, but emotionally they get all the fear. But if mom, CEO,
Mm.
anybody can hold the space for themselves first, to hold themselves, then automatically, without doing much, allows the other heart, brain, that to just thaw enough, to just open up and permeates to allow themselves to even ask the questions. That's where progress start happening, right?
Well, and it's also where slow is fast, because I
Yes.
do want to speak to the fast part of that because it feels slow because it's not meeting my expectations for change to look or be a certain way. It's a different orientation, the self-reflection practice and the pause internally, and then to go there. So that's one thing. The fast part, and this is where I use the word magic because I don't have another way to describe it. And it's the way my friends have described me. Oh, there's Lerae magic again, and it was started very young. That's I guess I was 16 when a girlfriend of mine coined that the first time. But I've watched my clients tap into their own version of Lerae magic. And just a really quick story about a woman who has her master's, her PhD, has got all the education and done all the right things and has created her own, like in actual the education system, has created her own roles because freedom is so important to her. It's such a soul print part of her. It's part of her soul design. And just incredibly creative, incredibly resourceful. And yet there was an aspect of scarcity that she was clinging to that was tied to a relationship. And by working through that and finding courage and having the capacity and feeling held and supported in all the places that she needed to feel like she could. Oh, we got it. That's our timer.
Oh
We're
my God,
trying to keep these
to
shorter
keep
for
this
folks.
here, that
Yeah, so I'll just quickly end with this story.
please keep continuing.
So this is the fast part, is that she has made some of the most courageous decisions. So I asked her, what is the most courageous thing that you feel to do right now? No, just don't think about it too long. And she said, she blurted whatever it was. It was to actually retire from her system job, her educational space. She went and did it. So what happens next is she gets her first consulting residency gig, like within days of
So
making that
isn't
decision.
that's
That's
the magic. That's
because
the
you're
magic.
making space, you're
Yes,
clearing the way, that
yes,
threshold, right? To
yes.
have the trust in oneself. And you can have faith in God, you can have faith in the universe, you can have faith in whatever it is, which can help you steady yourself and regulate yourself as you cross the threshold. But it's the crossing of the threshold into the uncertainty, doing the courageous thing that scares you out of your pants. And boom, the
Exactly.
magic starts happening.
It's
And
like you're terrified of landing and crush your bones, and actually it was a very soft landing that opens up your vista to see things that you couldn't see from the cliff from which
yeah.
you were holding.
And when I started my business, which was the scariest thing I did, it was the most vulnerable. I'd come to the end of all I know. I didn't have, it was dark. It was the darkest time season of my soul. And to step out of that into coaching, which was I knew it was my home. I knew it was my soul purpose. Back when I was 28. I just turned 56 yesterday, by the way. Thank you for the birthday wishes.
Now you know that, and happy birthday, Lerae, again for everyone to know that Lerae had a birthday.
Let's celebrate. Yay. And that ah, in the celebration, so the what was I talking about?
You were talking
Deepest, darkest
about
night of the soul, staying in that space. I can't remember. The celebration took over. So, but we
the,
need to come to an end anyway. But we'll circle back to whatever thought that
we
was.
will circle back to that. We will circle back. I even lost that once the birthday came.
I know, it's like, oh yay. Okay,
Because
so
it's so
totally derailed.
because it's so wonderful, and it's
Maybe
just
that's the universe saying, you guys need to stick to your timeline that you agreed on, which was 30 minutes,
maybe,
not just for
maybe,
yourselves, but others. But are there any
maybe.
closing
But I
thoughts?
think that probably we will come back to that next week because there's so much to unwrap within that.
Okay.
To that to the to it is not easy so many times then again to do what we're wanting. It's not about to do, it's about creating space where we can actually allow somebody who is terrified, and we might be able to be the parents that can hold them to open up other parts of them that could not come to the surface as long as they're scared and they repeat what they're doing all the time. And that never changes. We'll come back to that.
Yeah. So, in closing, I just like to offer a couple of practices. And that is, again, going back to what we've shared in other podcasts, and that's the pause and the internal reflection. And if you don't have a coach or a therapist, a journal is a great place to reflect and pause and check in with where you are within yourself, and where there's alignment, like do an alignment audit. Where do things feel messy or out of alignment or just, off? And where do they flow? That ease and flow.
Exactly,
Not it.
exactly. And I with in that line, I would like to offer the importance when you sit down with yourself and you have an intention to see how it is. Use what we call free association. Don't try hard to think. Just
Mm.
let yourself just be. Ask the question and see what comes to you. So many times things will come to you that will feel really not important or unrelated, They usually do. So don't ignore them.
That
And
stream
just,
of
and
consciousness.
as you said, a stream of consciousness, and just chart them down and come back to that later. But ask more questions that you need to, that you don't even need to answer, but just see what happens in your body. What feels, how is your, see how you are when you're asking him those questions. Asking questions is way more important than answering them. Usually the answers come naturally if we allow that. So we'll
Oh,
start with that. Kind of that.
yes. And closing, I'd like to remind everything one of the things that did help me along the way to move into uncertainty and create trust within myself was understanding that self awareness is 99% the way through change.
Yes.
It's
We
actually
first of
the
all need to,
doing.
we first of all, if we don't recognize that, not, we don't know even what needs to be
Yeah.
changed.
So the actual it's 90% and 10% is the behavior
Right. And it
change.
starts with there. It starts really there. I mean, it's like, what do I need to do? Just first of all, become aware of how you are at that point of time.
It's so hard for us. We have so much to share in this space, but I think we did really well considering that we could probably
We'll
talk for a
try.
whole
We'll
hour.
try. We'll try.
All right. Well, thank you again, Oren, and with so much care.
Thank you, Lerae. Sending love to you and to everyone that hears that and those that don't hear that as well.
Oh, thank
Everyone in the world.
thank you, Oren.